honestly, this is the biggest fight to me that I could think of. This is more like a Roy Jones versus James Toney, or when they fought. Like you didn't really know who was gonna win. Like or it's like kind of like a it is kind of like a Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard. Because it's 50-50 to the nose. Like, honestly, whoever wake up feeling the best can win the fight. Like, if one just like, oh, damn, I ain't loose today, I ain't feeling it, it could go to, it's so crazy. It's so many, like, things to measure in that fight that, no, so I get what you're saying, though, like, as far as other fighters back in the day did have better resumes, because it was contenders that was in the top 15 and 20 then that would have been a champion now. It was more, because it was more teachers in the game and guys was, that's why you had dudes like Antonio Tarver and Montel Griffin that nobody knew at the time that had come and beat Roy, because it was real teachers and real old school fighters back then, where you would, if you go back, you would see the real great fighters losing to guys you never heard of.
Correct.
But if you go watch some of these guys, now I'm gonna tell you one guy that people underestimate their resume, and I had to check myself on this. Mike Tyson might be some dogs coming up. People just don't know. Beating dudes like the Tony Tuckers, Tony Tubbs, Pinklin, Thomas, and even Razor Ruddock in them. If you compare them to the heavyweights now, go back and do your homework and see how athletic them dudes was and how slick and fast and how hard they hit. Like a lot of, so
they were more complete fighters back in the days.
More complete. So I don't think Terrence and Errol had the guys under their belt like those guys back then, but I think that those two
are that.
So honestly, this win for either one of them could trump a lot of the welterweights in the just 20th, like after the 2000s era. It could trump anybody's, because even though some of these guys had more wins against good guys, they didn't have a better win than this one. Like, you know, because at the time they fighting is they both at their peak. This is the very best. You know, that they probably can't get any better than they are now. They both undefeated. They didn't wait for one guy to lose. And because to me in boxing today, fighters don't want to take risk until they see a vulnerability. Like if you seen David beat it,
then there's people that are saying that they don't really see Spence being the same guy.
Nah, he proved that his last fight. And with Danny, think about it. Danny still ain't nothing to just get up in there wouldn't. Danny could punch. If he wasn't the same guy, believe me, Danny would have had him on the stretcher.
But but the thing about with Danny is that he has to really load up to punch. You know.
He does, but this the thing. What Ugas to me was Errol Spence's career best performance.
Yeah.
Hands down. Like and you could ask Ugas and he can give you a gauge because he's been boxing since he was a kid. So I'm sure he know in his mind, like, man, this is my hardest fight in my life pretty much. So Ugas is a crafty, skilled fighter. And I think
he beat him in his game too.
He beat him at his game and so when I saw that fight, I was sold. I was like, I did want to see it because in the Garcia fight, he didn't look like his normal self. But when I saw him in Ugas, I'm like, oh, he came clutch on that one. He looked super good. And then Terrence looked real good against Porter. So yeah, I think that them beating each other will it's hands down number one pound for pound. I don't think you could argue with it.
Who do you have?
Man, like it's a coin toss. Like I think it could be a draw, to be honest with you.
I'm betting the draw. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I think it could be a draw or a split decision. I don't think neither one gonna get stopped. I think they both gonna hurt each other like a little buzz to where it's noticeable, because Terrence, you know, he got good timing, he got more speed, he got better movement,
better footwork.
He plays his shots a little better to me, but Earl got he a better pressure fighter. He could fight on the inside better. He's more technical with the basics.
Don't leave as many openings as well.
He's more technical with the basics. Like Earl's a very good boxer. He's just not a dancing mover, but he's a real good boxer. He like a Winky Wright kind of boxer with more power. See, Winky was a great boxer, but he didn't dance around the ring. He'd pick you apart right in front of you. But Earl's just more aggressive. So Earl can press him.
Zab Judah made the same comparison.
Oh, he did, yeah, man. That's and he punched to the body real good. So I just think it's going to be a firefight, and it's going to boil down to the 11th and 12th round. I think that's how close it's going to be to where whoever win those last 2 or 3 will win the fight. But I think it's going to be some controversial scorecards, and I don't know who is going to come because all right, we got to think of it like this. This is what people don't really realize. The judge is humans, right? So out of these 3 judges, one gonna like one more than the other. Just naturally, you always have a fighter that you like better than the other one. So if it's close, they're gonna give it to the fighter that they like better.
Off of style alone.
That don't mean it's a rivalry, but it's like, oh man, I like what he did better. They might say, oh, I like the way Terrence was moving and hitting them. And
so judges will be biased at this point in time.
Yeah, and they might say, oh, I like the way Earl was pressing him, and he made Terrence move that way. Terrence was moving and outpointing him, but another judge could say, oh, no, he made Terrence run from him. So you got to think. You could look at it like we just said, De La Hoya and Trinidad, right? Remember that fight, everybody said De La Hoya ran. He was really just moving, but the 2 judges didn't think that. They thought Trinidad made a move like that because he, his power. So, I think it's going to boil down to that. Which judge like the power and the pressure, and which one like the slick mover and the the counter puncher and Terrence Crawford. But I think it's going to be like it's going to boil down. In my opinion, I don't see it being a knockout. I think it's going to boil down to the judges. I think it's going to be a majority or split decision or a draw.
I've seen you in the gym around Bud. I don't know if you've ever been able to share the ring with him at all, but have you?
No, but it was crazy. Me and Bud was roommates when he first turned pro. I'm a few years older than Bud, so he actually was living with me before out here in Vegas. So yeah, so I seen his rise to the. That's why I give him a lot of credit, man, because he was overlooked. Like we had the same manager at the time, and I was telling them how good this cat can fight. They was underestimating him, like literally, they didn't think that he would become what he became, even halfway. Like he was through in to lose some of them early fights that he won. Like to be honest with you, with dudes like Gamboa and the dude that knocked out Khan, them was fights that they just threw him in there like, oh, let's just see what happened, like and get our money off of him. But Terrence rose to the occasion. He like real competitive and real. If you doubt him, he just hold that chip on his shoulder. Like he one of them kind of dudes. Like